Okay, so the first thing we're going to talk about is job descriptions. So obviously you're going to post this job description somewhere and people are going to be reading it. Now the truth is people don't really read full descriptions. And the thing is that you need to find the people who do. That's the difference between successful VA and the one that's going to fail you, because it starts off basically from paying attention to detail right from that step. So what happens is this. If you don't provide enough details in your job description, likely you're going to get a lot of questions after the fact from people who are truly qualified. So I would actually describe the job in as much detail as you possibly can, specifically when it comes to, what type of the description of the job, but as well as what type of person you're looking for that job, right? So for example, let's say you're looking for a writer. What type of background do you want them to have in order to write for you? As well as, describing just what type of writing they're going to be doing in general, right? Now, I do a little trick here where I put a call out at the end of the job description in order to see that they read the job description. So for example, if it's again example of a writer, I would put, as a last sentence, I would say, make sure that your job application or your cover letter, the first words in that cover letter will be, I love writing. So I give them like a keyword that I want them to use to indicate that they read the job description. It's a great technique to start screening people for paying attention for detail. It's hugely important for you to do that. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to talk about is the type of job boards you're posting the ad on. So it's really important to understand that there's some job boards that are kind of generalist job boards, like Upwork, for example. So, you can find anything on Upwork. But there's other ones that are specially job boards, right? So, for example, if you need telemarketers, right? So people who will call for your agency to make appointments or to make sales calls, there's actually a job board called Get Callers that specializes in that type of VA, right? And if you go on Upwork, because it's such generalist job boards, you will have to screen a lot more people in order to get to the ones that you want. So I highly suggest you use, if there are specific skills you're looking for, I highly suggest you use specialty job boards in order for you to get better results. So I really want to stress the importance of getting a person who will pay attention to detail. It's probably one of the most important skills. I would say paying attention to detail and work ethic are the two primary skills any VA with any skills should have. Because if you don't have somebody who pays attention to detail, it will cost you a lot of time, wasted time fixing their mistakes, right? And it can be as simple as, just not paying attention to instructions or doing the job but making mistakes during the job. But either way, it costs you time, and you want to avoid as much of that as possible. So the way I do it is I start screening them. Like I mentioned to you, from the job description, I make them complete a little task, right? I get them to complete a task. But another way of doing it is actually getting them to complete a test. So there's plenty of tests online that are free, and they allow you to specifically test how well they pay attention to detail, right? So this is definitely, I recommend that 100%. As well, in that same vein, I want them, after you've screened them and you decide to select certain ones to interview, after the interview, I will give them an actual task to do that will screen, again, one of the things that the task will have is built-in test for paying attention for detail. Like I said, to my opinion, paying attention to detail is hugely, hugely important because it costs you so much time and effort managing them that it's just not worth getting the wrong person. Next part we're going to talk about is language skills. So I cannot emphasize enough that hiring somebody cheap with poor language skills will cost you more expensive than hiring somebody with perfect language skills, but a little bit more expensive. It actually doesn't matter what type of task you're asking them to do. Language skills is a huge barrier in VA world. And if you select somebody with poor language skills, basically what's going to happen is that you will have a very frustrating experience. Now, to avoid that, I have a trick that filters them before you even interview them. So what I ask them to do very often is to make a video of themselves speaking instead of providing them, asking them to provide me with a cover letter. This is one of those tricks that, one, tests how much they want this job, because somebody who's going to make an effort by making a video clearly wants it more than somebody who doesn't want to waste time making, even doing this little thing that we're asking them, right? The second thing is that you're going to see their mannerisms, you're going to see how well they speak, and from the fluency of their speech, you can really find out whether they're going to have enough skills to do the job you want them to do, or you're going to have problems communicating, right? So this happens, for example, a lot with Indian contractors, where they have the skills to do the job, but the communication level is so poor that it creates a huge barrier, and lots of mistakes happen as a result of them not understanding what you're saying. So again, I could not emphasize enough testing for language skills as a prerequisite with you working with any VA for any skills whatsoever. Okay, so the next tip that I have is actually probably the best tip that I have in terms of screening people and not wasting time. Because usually what happens is that you have a lot of candidates, and you end up interviewing a few because you have time limitations, but you might be missing out. So what I started doing is I started using personality assessments as a mandatory step in the hiring process. So basically what I do is like this. Step one, I write the job description that's going to essentially filter them out, right? So I do some sort of a test within the job description. Step two, I ask them to complete a personality assessment that will test their aptitude. So basically how well they learn, their cognitive ability, so how they think, their problem-solving skills, things like that. And after I've done that, what happens is, or there's actually a specific test that you can do that will screen for success prediction in a specific profession, right? So if you want a project manager, there's specific skill sets that they've discovered over testing many people. The chances of them being a good fit for that particular role, right? So for example, I use Hire Select as such test. It's like $1,200 per year kind of cost, so it's very affordable. And it is actually really, really good because it hits all of the sections that I mentioned in terms of screening people. And all I do at the end is I look at the test results and I choose the best candidates from that. So I don't really look at their portfolios or whatever. I look at it as a after the fact factor. So I would first look at the personality assessments, are they a good fit? And then I look at their portfolio and see, do they have the skills to do this job or not? And that method actually works extremely well, and it saves me so much time, because basically what I get like 50 candidates, I narrow it down to, let's say, 15, and out of those 15, I might interview only 5. So I now didn't waste any time at all. I know the language skills, I know the kind of the degree of success that I can expect from them. And at that point, I just interview the 5 and really get a feel for how I feel about them personally, right? Because, I still need to make a decision based on my gut feeling as well as just data. After the interview process is complete, it's the process of hiring is not done, because apart from what they say to you on the interview and apart from pre-screening methods that I'm using, what's really important is to see how they actually perform during a specific task. So what I usually do is I give them a task assignment that has some inbuilt qualities that I'm trying to test. So for example, again, I'm testing for paying attention for detail. So I will make it a little bit complex, not too complex, but a little bit complex. I will also try to very often trick them within that assignment because I want to see how well they problem solve. And if I do those two things, and I kind of get a feel for how they deliver the job back to me, I really have a good idea of what type of results we're gonna get when we work with them long term. And just kind of like this complexity factor, trying to trick them, that portion I started introducing quite recently, and it really changed the way these things work because you can see people failing incredibly easy just by making them think a tiny little bit. And in the VA world, they're not used to thinking for the most part. It's more like automatic, here's the instructions, I will execute the instructions, and that's it. So that filtering method works amazing because I see, how much they're going to struggle when I'm actually giving them jobs, right? So huge tip for you guys. And the last thing, I know that I said it many times during the video, but I actually make them complete a separate paying attention test assessment as a final step. I know it seems like overkill, but paying attention to detail and getting as much data regarding that, it's huge. That probably will kill majority of your performance if you have the wrong person. So that's the secret method that I have that gave us incredible results over the last couple of years in how we hire. Hey, I really appreciate you watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please subscribe. If you run YouTube ads or you have an offer, let's talk. We would love to talk to you about our agency services. I'll put a link in the description so you can make an appointment with us and we can have a chat. I look forward to see you next time as we come up with this type of videos all the time. Thanks a lot and see you next time.
Walk with our feet on the ground and we will talk with our head in the clouds and we will walk